extremely difficult time of the COVID crisis, and also it had problems for you for managing the work of the General Assembly. Could you please tell us what is the lessons that has been learned from this, and how are you managing the whole situation?
One, it's a difficult time for everyone, and colleagues at the United Nations as ambassadors representing countries are very, very aware that even with difficulties, and especially with difficulties, they must stand together to send a message that the United Nations is important. It may have its limitations, it does have limitations, but that everybody, every country has suffered. Disruptions are very clear, whether it is transportation, whether it is health, or even food and travel. So this really brought us to think a way to continue to work, even if at times not physically, to continue to have ideas that we share with countries all over the world in relation to very urgent matters that deal with the pandemic, but also deal with the fallouts very clearly to the fore.
What do you think should be the way leaders of the world should be dealing with a post-COVID situation? Especially, we've been warned that the poverty is going to be rising, especially in the developing countries. So what should be the focus of the UN or world leaders in general in the post-COVID world?
I think several things. One is really a focus on eliminating poverty and strengthening cooperation and respect of individuals and societies, without which the UN system or any other multilateral system will collapse. And if ever there is need for a reminder about the interconnection between human beings as human beings, regardless of their circumstances, the health pandemic has made this very clear to us. And countries are getting lessons. Some are slower at getting the lessons than others. But I think at the United Nations, there is urgency to continue to pass on the message. First of all, financing for development is important. Dealing with poverty is part of it. But also cooperation, including technical issues in terms of learning from others. You know, it's very clear that hundreds of millions of children around the world have their education disrupted. In some countries, some means of continuation of education are available, in others, not so. And this is itself an issue of serious importance to the world. And so the issue of differences in access to technology and the spread of technology for agriculture, for education, for all aspects of life, I think is also important. So this is another big issue that this pandemic has brought clearly to the fore.
What do you think should be the role of developing countries in collaborating among themselves? You know, the South-South Cooperation, because there's a lot that we can do. And I think, you know, India and Nigeria also are playing a role in this. So how do you think the developing countries themselves could take a role in this?
I think you bring a point of urgency, which is that one, whatever cooperation is available, north-south or bilaterally, I think South-South cooperation is extremely important. Its moral compass is certainly a bit different. We learn easier from our peers, and this has worked very strongly. There was a very good South-South meeting in Argentina some months ago, and the presidency of Uganda is taking this matter extremely seriously. And countries like yours have also shown the ability of countries to push this agenda in relation to not only the region, but around the world. I think this is, Nigeria has done so, other countries are doing this, and I think it is very important that we're able to privilege South-South cooperation. And I think the principles are very clearly understood in terms of respect, in terms of the cooperation of South-South countries to help themselves, but also to give a model of cooperation that should help multilateral organizations more broadly.
Staying on the subject, Nigeria is the biggest African country on the continent, and it has so much advantages in terms of being developed. What do you see Nigeria's role in the world and its leadership in the continent and among developing countries?
I think Nigeria is a member of many important organizations, including Commonwealth Organization, the AU, Non-Aligned Movement, G77 as a forum. I think all countries must show responsibility. Those that are able to give support should continue to give support, including what used to be the case, scholarships for citizens from other parts of the world. That creates bonds of friendship and makes it easier for countries to know better the conditions of other countries. I think within the African continent, Nigeria, of course, and other countries must continue to pull together within the framework of not only West African states, but also the AU, the African Union as a whole.